The Connect America Fund Phase 2 auction was the first multiple-round reverse auction to allocate ongoing, high-cost universal service support for fixed broadband service. Just over 974,000 locations across the United States were eligible for support in this auction. These locations are in areas where price cap carriers did not accept support offered through a cost model, areas deemed to be extremely high cost by that cost model, as well as certain other areas. In addition, these areas are not served by any unsubsidized competitor offering both voice and broadband at speeds of 10 megabits per second down and 1 megabit per second up or higher. Absent universal service funding, broadband deployment in these areas would not be economically feasible. The aggregate reserve price for all of the areas available in the auction, as determined by the cost model, was $6.1 billion over 10 years. The total budget for the auction, established by the Commission, was $1.98 billion for 10 years. Hence, the Commission used an auction mechanism and competition among bidders to efficiently allocate the limited budget and determine which areas would be served and for how much. Each bid in the auction represented a commitment by a bidder to deploy fixed broadband and voice services in a particular geographic area in return for a certain amount of support. The auction used a weighting system so that the amount of support associated with a bid depended on the speed, latency, and usage level associated with the broadband service. There were 4 performance tiers in the auction, each with a different minimum download and upload speed and usage allowance, and 2 latency tiers, 1 high latency and 1 low latency. Higher support amounts were awarded for higher speeds, lower latency services. Bids started high and went down in each round of the auction. Bids were considered simultaneously so that bidders proposing to meet one set of performance standards competed directly against bidders proposing to meet another standard. The weighted tiers encouraged participation from a variety of different companies using a range of technologies. 220 bidders were eligible to participate in the auction, and of those, 173 bidders placed bids once the auction began. Bidding in the Phase 2 auction started on July 24, 2018, and concluded on August 21, 2018. The auction allocated $1.49 billion in support over 10 years to bidders committing to offer fixed voice and broadband services to over 713,000 locations across 45 states. More than 99% of these locations should receive broadband at speeds of 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits per second up or higher, which is more than twice the minimum standard for recipients of Phase 2 model-based support. The aggregate reserve price associated with the areas that won support was approximately $5 billion over 10 years, but because of price competition in the auction, they will now be served at a much lower cost to ratepayers. Inter-area competition, in which bidders competed for the total funds available in the auction, brought the price to serve these areas down to $1.98 billion. Then, once the budget cleared, intra-area competition brought the price down further to $1.49 billion. There were 103 winning bidders in the auction. The winning bidders include a range of different types of companies, such as wireless internet service providers, electric cooperatives, cable operators, local exchange carriers, and a satellite company. This slide shows the speed tiers associated with the winning bids in the auction. The lowest speed tier that bidders could commit to providing was 10 megabits per second down and 1 megabit per second up. However, 99.75% of the locations which won support in the auction should receive service that is more than twice as fast. since the winning bidders committed to offering broadband service at 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits per second up or higher. 53% of locations that won support should receive broadband service with download speeds of at least 100 megabits per second, and 19% should receive gigabit service. This map depicts the areas of the country that received winning bids in the auction. These are the areas that winning bidders have committed serving over the next 6 years. The auction encouraged innovation and deployment of robust services by giving winning bidders the flexibility to use any technology or multiple technologies to meet the FCC's build-out and performance standards for fixed service. Winning bidders in the auction must file long-form applications by October 15th in order to become authorized to receive support. Once they have been authorized to receive support, they must build out their network and begin offering service to at least 40% of the locations won in a state within 3 years. They must serve an additional 20% of the locations each subsequent year until reaching 100% of locations by the end of the 6th year. Data on the locations served must be filed with the Universal Service Administrative Company, or USAC, and penalties can be imposed for failure to reach the build-out milestones. In addition, support recipients must comply with requirements adopted earlier this year for measuring and reporting on the performance of their networks. We hope the success and lessons learned from the Connect America Fund Phase 2 auction will help inform policymaking for future commission auctions of universal service support, including the Mobility Fund Phase 2 auction, the Remote Areas Fund, and Phase 3 of the Connect America Fund. Thank you.